math. This video is going to be just a little bit longer because we are going to be reviewing for a test. You are welcome to go through it and just find the parts that you feel like you need to review. If you'd like to be really well prepared, you might consider watching the entire thing so that you will be able to review every part that is going to, every concept that's going to be on the test. I know you're going to do well. You've been doing so very well in class. So the first one that we're going to do here is we have a number that is 18/10, and we need to write it as a mixed number in decimal form. So from looking at that, we would know that we have 10/10 there. So we're going to have a 1. We have 1 whole. When we take the 10/10 away and make it be 1 whole, then we have 8/10 left over. And to write 8/10, it's already in that form that works out perfectly to just write it like that. So that would be 1 and 8/10 if you were to rewrite 18/10 in decimal form. All right, our next problem is we have one that says this. And we need to write that as a decimal, 77/10. So let's just go ahead and write it as a fraction first. That gives us 77/10. Looking at that, you can see that there are 70/10, so that's going to give us 7 wholes. 7 on the whole side of the decimal point. And then that would leave us left over with 7/10. So 77/10 written in decimal form is 7 and 7/10. Now we have one that looks like this. Okay. 22/10 equals 2 1s and 2/10. So this is requiring you to write the same things in many different ways. This really is the same question as the one before that, but it's having you write it out in a different form. So on the test, be sure that you just read it and think, because you already know these answers. It's just asking you the same thing over and over in different ways. And I'm sure that you will be just fine with that. All right, another one we have here is, I'm just going to clip this on so you can see it. We need to write in what the values are. Can you see that well enough? We need to write in what the values are on this number line. And this number here, I don't know if you can see, there's a 3 and a 0. So somewhere between that 0 and 3, there's got to be a 1 and a 2. So if we count out the parts equally, we discover that right here is 1 and right here is 2. So that's where the other holes are. It's right there and right there. And you know how I do in class. I always like to make where the holes are just look a little bit different, so that it's easy to tell those divisions, those partitions, those equal parts. Now over here on this end, we have we're pointing to the very first mark we come to. If we count these out, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we find out when we get to 1 that it's 10. So that would be 10/10, and that's how we end up with the 1. So back over here on this one, that's got to be 1/10, because it just represents the first place on that number line as it is numbered, which is 1/10. So there you go with that. That is how we write 1/10 in decimal form. All right, so our next spot here, we know that we have a whole already, and we count these up, and they're in tenths also. And so we would just count to the next one. There's 1 and 1, 2, 1 and 3/10. And that is written 1 with the decimal point, and a 3. Then we come to the number 2. And then this last one, can you see that's also in tenths? It's not quite to 3, so we know it's just 2 wholes. Then we count them all up, and we come to 8 tenths. So this one would be 2 and 8 tenths. All right, those are kind of fun. They're a little bit like a puzzle, so you get to figure out what the numbers are in between. All right, let's take another number. Let's take 1 and 3/4. We need to write that as a decimal. This is going to require us to do a couple things. One is we need to figure out, in order to write something as a decimal, it has to have a denominator that is a 10 or 100 or 1,000, or it continues on, but we're working in tens and hundreds. So we need to change 3/4 to have a denominator of, it's not going to work to have 10 because 4 times nothing even equals 10. So let's move it to the hundreds. So let's just rewrite this as 1, and how many hundredths? We'll need to figure that out. All right, so what times 4 equals 100? We've practiced this one in class. Think of a dollar. This is 3/4. This here is 3/4 of a dollar. If you have 4 quarters, you have a dollar. Okay, so we would multiply it by 25 because a quarter's worth 25 cents. So 4 times 25 equals 100. And 3 times 25 equals 75. So there you go. That's our fraction. 1 and 75 hundredths equals 1 and 3/4. Now we'll write it in decimal form, and it will look like this. 1 and 75 hundredths. Great job. Now this, for me, is the most fun of all the decimal work we do. This next one is the kind of thing that I think is the most fun. I hope you like it too. We're simply going to add. And as we learned yesterday in class, this is what you've been doing all along. You thought it would be tricky, but it turns out it's just the same as what you've always done. All right, 4 plus 7 equals 11. So that would put a 1, and we need to regroup that, the 10 part, and bring it up to the other column and put it in the tenths. So that would be 9 tenths. Let me give it to you here. It's just basic addition that you know oh so well. And then 6 plus 2 is 8. So on the test, you'll get to do some of these. They're fun, and they're easy peasy for you because you already know how to add. The important part is, just like usual adding, you've got to keep your things in the right place value. You've got to keep your ones in your ones and your tens in your tens. And one thing with the decimal is it makes it pretty simple to do that, because if you always keep your decimals lined up, then you know things are in their right place value, and you'll get the right answer every time. All right, now let's do it with subtraction, which again is pretty easy stuff for you because you already know how to subtract. This one's a little more fun though, because we need to make a trade. We don't have quite enough hundredths here to take 3 away. We only have 2 here. We have 3 hundredths there. So we're going to need to borrow. We're going to need to regroup this 7 and take some of it and put it over here so that we have enough to subtract. So we will change. We'll take a 10 tenths over here, and we're going to move it over to the 12, to 2, and now we have 12. It's just the same as you've always done when you regroup. No different. And if you notice, we're all lined up. We've got our decimals lined up. We've got our tenths lined up. We've got our hundredths lined up. All right, so now that's easy. 12 minus 3 is 9. 6 minus 4 is 2. Don't forget to put your decimal in. And 8 minus 3 is 5. Okay, that will be the easy part for you, I know. Let's write this number. Let's write this number as a fraction. If you had this number, how would you change that to a fraction? I mean, if you have this fraction, how would you change this to a decimal? Sorry. You have two wholes, so you would put down your two wholes. And then you have 26 hundredths. So after that decimal point, you will put the part over on this side. And you will have 2 and 26 hundredths. Next one we're going to review is, turn it this way so there's a little more room. All right. 1 and 33 hundredths equals how many hundredths? Now don't forget on this. It's asking you what this whole thing is in hundredths. So this side will equal what is written on this side. If you have 1 and 33 hundredths, what you actually have is 133 hundredths. No decimal in there because it's hundredths, and it's 133 of them. And we can remember this because if we write it this other way now, you can see that there is a hole in there. The 100 hundredths comes out and makes a hole, and then we have 33 hundredths left over. All right, so when it asks you something where there's an equal mark, be sure that on this side is the same. Don't be tricked into thinking that it's just 3 hundredths, because it's not. It's 133 hundredths. All right. Let's wonder about this one. How about 16 hundredths equals 1/10 and blank hundredths. Writing a little sloppy, sorry. There we have 16 hundredths. That would give us 1/10. There's 1 in the 10th spot, and it would give us, so 1/10 and 6 hundredths. And again, let's think this through. 16 hundredths is going to look like this. That's what 16 hundredths will look like. So there is 1/10 and 6 hundredths. We are just almost finished here. We are going to add a number up that will be simple for us to add because we know place value. Written like this, 5 plus 1/10 plus 8 hundredths would equal 5. And now we put the decimal point because we're going into the parts side. There is 1/10 and 8 hundredths. All right, there you go. I look forward to tomorrow. You guys will do so well, and it's a great opportunity to be able to show what you know. You've learned so much about decimals. You're able to add them, subtract them, understand what they mean. You've done an amazing job. So I will see you in the morning. Watch this video again if any of it is confusing to you. You also can go back and watch previous videos where things were talked about, and that will help you too if you're at all confused. Also, don't forget to let me know if there's something that you need help with. And I will see you in math tomorrow. Bye-bye.